to the Moto Muse vlog. I'm Hannah, and today I want to share with you about my first track day. Now, if you're like me, when I started getting into motorcycles, not when I was like seriously ready to buy, but when I was starting to think about it and look into and like daydream about it, I had no idea that things like track days existed. I didn't know that people would take their bikes and go maneuver around a track and, practice both riding and even potentially prepping for racing, that was even something you could do. I just always thought you had a motorcycle. It was another means of transportation and one that you could have a little bit more of an adventure on if you, say, wanted to ride through the canyons or do a beach ride or something. So to me, the idea of like racing, being on a track just didn't even cross my mind. Luckily for me, the people that I started riding with were avid street and track riders, some of whom even raced. So once I got my first bike and was doing canyon rides with them almost every weekend and just getting out riding, it wasn't long before they were like, hey, come watch us race, come to a track day. And it's not a cheap thing to do. However, if you want to practice your riding skills and you want to get better in a very safe and encouraging environment, I highly, highly recommend track days. They're fun. You can't help but feel badass, but they're great practice. And you don't have to worry about cars. You don't have to worry about oncoming traffic. And if you do lay your bike down, there's medical services right there to get to you and help you so that you stay as safe as possible. Now, my first track day happened at Streets of Willow, which is down in Rosamond, California. And it's a really fun track. It's not super big. However, it's got some really nice corners, some like shallower ones, and then some nice swooping deep ones, as well as a couple decent little straightaways. Now, when you sign up for a track day, there are different classes and levels based on your experience, so that you're riding alongside people with a similar experience level. That also means that when you sign up and are put into these different classes, you have different rules you have to adhere to. Now, for me, it was my first track day, so I signed up with a program through a company called Hypercycle. I'm not sure that they are doing track days anymore, but I had an amazing experience with them. So the way that Hypercycle managed it was they had 3 classes. They had the C class, which was for beginners. They had the B class for intermediate, and they had the A class, which was for advanced. In the advanced category, a lot of those riders are actually amateur racers and or potential professional racers competing all across the nation, actually, in various races and racing organizations. So you end up with that being a very skilled group of riders that are comfortable, they know how to corner, they know how to hopefully safely pass, and they have a lot more longitude on what they're allowed to do on the track. I can't speak to the intermediate rules for this track day, but for the beginner rules, I remember it was no passing except for in 2 of the straightaways where they were like, it's a long enough pass, and they wanted it to be that if you were passing someone, you had to be at least about an arm's length away. Not that you would actually take your arm off your motorcycle, but to kind of keep that distance in mind so as to not crowd your fellow riders. What this meant was there's no more passing once you got into the corners. They wanted you to try to stay safe distances behind people and, go through the track. What this meant for me, which was kind of fun and also kind of aggravating, I have a Ninja 250. In fact, this is the one that I took to the track that day. I don't have a lot of horsepower in my bike. It doesn't go very fast, and especially if I want to like go from like a slow, like I'm coming out of a turn and I want to accelerate, I have to pretty much shift up really quickly to make that happen. Now, there were these other riders in my class, beginners like me, that would, they had leader bikes or 600s, and they'd come out of that turn and they'd be so excited to be on the straightaway, they would just rev and just storm past me. And then we'd get to the turns and I mean, they'd be like far past me. And then we would get to the turns and I would actually catch up with them in the corners, because even though it doesn't go very fast, this is a really great bike. This and things like the Yamaha R3, I think Honda has one too. They're really good beginner bikes, and especially if you want to look into doing things like track days, you can really learn how to ride and throw your bike through these corners and throw it around. It's not super heavy. It doesn't have a lot of torque and an engine power that's going to really take control. So you can really learn a lot on a smaller engine bike like this. And that was my experience, is as we're going through these turns and these corners, these guys that would barrel past me, all of a sudden now I'm on their butt, and I was just itching to pass them. I didn't, because I follow the rules. But man, it was so frustrating to be that slow bike in the straights and then have to be stuck behind people. But it was still all a really good practice. And I mean, I still learned so much that first weekend. So now that I've talked about some of the other experience of just being on the track, I actually went to this track day with Josh, who's now my husband, but we were just dating at the time, our mutual friends, Shea and Johnny, and also our friend Katon. And while Katon rides, he wasn't there for the track day. He was just there to hang out with us. And he's also a really great photographer. So he got some really cool photos of us having fun experiencing our track day. So at any rate, Josh had already been riding for about 5 years at this point and had been doing track days and races for 3. So that's kind of how I got more aware and excited and interested in doing a track day, was because Josh and his friends Johnny and Danny, they all did race days and things, and it was hard to not need to try it when you're around people that are so excited about it. And so Josh was in the advanced category, since he was in fact a racer and has that experience. Johnny was in intermediate, and then Shea and I were it was both of our first track days, and we were in the beginner category together. And I remember Shea was riding around on his Honda CBR and just tearing it up, actually, really kicking butt out there. So at any rate, I'm there with the guys. We're having a great time. Hypercycle makes sure that, especially if you're a beginner, they put on kind of a track day school that they really recommend you take. And what that entails is just talking you through what to expect on the track, what the rules are, what the flags mean. And they even, for the very first session, do a guided lap where the instructor takes you through the whole course and kind of tries to show you the race line to give you a good idea of just what to expect on the track. And you do it at a slow speed so that you don't overwhelm yourself. And it's just really nice. A lot of track days will do that. And I think that if you are new to a track day, don't skip out on the race school or the track school. It's really just so helpful. Even if it's just a new track, do it. Why not? So we get out, we follow the instructor, and we have our first session. And like I had shared earlier, I was having a mix of feeling really cool in these corners where I'm catching up to people, and then being a little like, huh, when these guys are racing past me in the straights. So it was a very overwhelming, emotional moment that was, I had never done something that was so like badass and epic and all these things. Like, it just was like a very empowering moment for me. And I remember like our session, they did the flags, it was time to come in. I come in, I'm like, yeah, I did it. And then I park my bike, I get off, and Josh is standing there excited to hear how my first lap went. And as I start to take my helmet off, I just start crying, like full-blown bawling. I'm choked up. I can't get words out. And I'm just, oh my gosh, like totally just I think it was just so overwhelming and so exciting and so great that I couldn't process my emotions, and they just flooded out in tears, which Josh is now standing there freaking out. We go and we jump into his truck so that I can blubber in private, and he's just like, are you okay? What's wrong? What happened? What's going on? I'm like, I'm fine. I don't know. It's just a lot, but I had a good time. I promise I had a good time. And I just wept for maybe 5 minutes. I was like, just give me a minute. Pushed him out of the car, and I just sat there and cried and got it out of my system. But they really were tears of joy and just tears of like true, just freedom in a way that I just never experienced before. And I know it freaked him out, but I just had to process those emotions and get them out. And then when I came out of the truck and was like ready to go, I was like, all right, that was good, but now I want to see if I can get a knee down. And he was like, okay, it's your first track day. Be safe. Don't be foolish, which I completely agree with. I think as new riders, it's really exciting to think about getting that knee down and being able to be like, yeah, I leaned so far and all that stuff, which is also kind of, well, I want to say silly, but when I first started riding, the idea was leaning really deep. And now the more that I've ridden, the more experience I have, I realize it's less about super leaning and it's more about actually kind of almost getting off the bike. And MotoGP riders are a great example of this if you ever want to watch them race. But they like get off the bike and the bike stays more upright. It still leans, but it stays more upright. And they're like off the bike using their weight to really pull through that turn. And that's where the knee comes in, is in that moment as you're leaning and pulling through. So, and I am not a race coach, so please realize this is me sharing what I've learned and not necessarily telling you what to do. But just know it's things that have helped me ride better and safer as I've gained more experience. And I'm still learning. So by all means, if you've got a coach, listen to them. At any rate, I was really determined. I really wanted to get a knee down. And it didn't help that Shea, he was just as excited about this track day. And you could just tell his adrenaline was going. He was amped up. He wanted to get a knee down too. And around like lunchtime, his wife and a couple of my friends came by. So Courtney and Kelsey and Steph all came by to see how we were doing, to wish us well. And I gotta say, it always means a lot when your friends show up and watch you just go around a track. Because I get it. It's not always the most exciting, especially there's a difference between a track day and a race day. Like at least with a race day, it's a race. With a track day, you're just hoping your friend doesn't fall over. But it meant the world to me that my friends would come and see me in this moment. And it was really special. So thank you, Steph, Kelsey, and Courtney. Courtney, I know you were there more for Shea, but you were still there and you're my friend and I appreciated it. So yay. Thank you. So at any rate, I think it was maybe my third session out. I was loving turn 3. I mean, you go up, you kind of start in a bit of a straight, and then it's a bit of a turn. It's kind of like a gentle right turn, and then like a little bit more of a right turn, and then it's like a really strong, like bold left. And that was the one that I was just really loving leaning into. And I remember I was leaning, I was going through, and all of a sudden I felt that contact on my puck. Oh, it was bliss. It was so exciting to just feel that. And it wasn't very hard. It was just enough. But I came in from that session and I was showing it off, and Shea hadn't done it yet, and I beat him to it, so I felt really good. And you know, he got his knee down the next session and totally was just as thrilled. And I mean, I couldn't be more happy. I'm glad we both did it. But it was such a great time. And I just, yeah, I have to get back to the track. Talking about this, like, I can't tell you how much I miss track riding. It's just not been something that I have been able to afford in recent years. It's not a cheap hobby. However, it is very much a worthwhile one. So that's actually something that I'm putting a lot of my time and savings towards saving up to do that. I would love to actually do a video talking about how to get ready for a track day. If that's something that you think you'd be interested in, I'd love to talk about that and share some of the things I've learned. And, you know, even down to like how to just kind of get your bike initially set up or things to keep in mind. But overall, that was my first track day. It was such a good time. I felt like Hypercycle really took care of us as riders. The weather was awesome. Well, I mean, you're always melting at a track day, I feel like, but the weather was good. The friends were awesome. And I really need to get back. On that note, I do think it's kind of cool that because when you're at a track day, you're wearing a helmet, you're fully covered, you got your gloves on, all that jazz. It's kind of perfect for right now because the social distance of the sport is built right in to the entire outfit. So I have noticed that a lot of track days are starting to open back up and function, and I highly recommend signing up and doing one. I'm looking into it, and just be safe when you're out there, both on the track and just within health reasons. But you are not going to regret a track day. I don't regret a single track day, not even the one that I laid my bike down at. So that'll be a story for another time. But thank you so much for watching this vlog. I hope that you're enjoying them. I would love if you would check out our email list on motomusegear.com. You can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Moto Muse Gear, and we'd love to hear from you. Drop us a note. If you enjoyed this video, give us a like, maybe consider subscribing if you are watching this on YouTube. Otherwise, I just really appreciate you taking the time today. I hope everyone's staying safe out there, and remember, rubber side down. There's like a truck going by. I'm gonna have to say this all over again. That's okay. What's the word?